Welcome to the Key to Growth podcast, Home Services Marketing Unlocked, with me, your host, Jen McKee. Every week, I sit down with top marketers in the trades, from the brains behind $100 million companies to those scaling from 1 to 3, even to 10 million, breaking down exactly how they got where they are and uncover the secret to their success. If you're ready to grow your business and get real, actionable insights, you are in the right place. Let's unlock the key to your marketing success starting now. Welcome back to Key to Growth podcast. I am so excited to have Stephanie Postell here today from Anchor Heating because I know that we talk a lot about marketing, but I think that the biggest thing to learn in this podcast is what everyone else is doing. Like, how do I do what they're doing and get the success that they're doing? And we all know that Anchor has seen some really awesome, fast success. So, Stephanie, I'll let you kind of introduce yourself and Anchor.
Perfect. Well, I'm so glad to be here. My name is Stephanie Postell. I am co-owner and chief operating officer of Anchor Heating and Air in Charleston, South Carolina. Been in the industry about 15 years. Have owned other businesses and things over my life. Marketing is my one true love. So I'm very blessed that I get to do that here as well as run the company. And I run the company with my husband, David, who is my 100% partner and couldn't do anything that we've done without him. We have an amazing staff and just, kids in our business now and just living the good life. Honestly, we're very blessed to have Anchor.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's so interesting that you are in charge of marketing because there are definitely a lot of owners like you who have a real passion for it. And it can be a struggle to balance your responsibilities as the COO and also marketing. How do you feel like you're able to do that? Or what helps you succeed in that, really?
I think both of those roles are me to a T, right? So, I mean, I'm the process person. I'm just that operations side. And if you ask my dad, I've been running the show since I was born. So that side's easy. I don't know that I realized that marketing was such a passion of mine, but what I do know is that I like what I like, and so when I like what I like, I want everybody else to like it too. And so that really, over time, has just turned into marketing and the things that I've picked up over the years. And it's probably the going to be the hardest thing for me to let go. And if I don't have to, I won't. I tell everybody here when I grow up, I hope I just get to be the marketing manager for Anchor Heating and Air because it is such a passion and it's so much fun. It really is the thing that I enjoy the most. It's sometimes, I would say, until you probably wouldn't be able to tell, but until recently, it's the thing that I wish I could spend more time on. And we've done a pretty good job of what we've done, but I have so many more ideas.
Yeah.
And so that's the part that has held me back a little bit is the ideas and the creativity and stuff, but then not having the bandwidth to do it. And
Right.
so I am very happy with myself that I just hired a marketing assistant who is amazing.
I'm
And
so happy for you. I was gonna tell
I,
you, like, you can get help and still
I
get to do your ideas.
Yes. And it has truly, even just in a month, has been a game changer because there are so many things that I want to do and have ideas to do. And now I can just tell her. And we're getting to that point where I say, Lucy, and I already did it. It's right here. Like I already put it together and I've already done that. And she's young and energetic and has lots of great ideas. And so, as we go on, I'll tell you some of the things that we've done recently, but things that I've had in my mind for 3 years that I haven't been able to do. And literally in the last month, they've come to fruition. And so that's the exciting part. But yes, up until now, I've done all that myself. And I feel like we've done a pretty good job, but I'm
Yeah.
excited to see what's coming.
I'm so excited for you because we work with owners, we work with marketing directors, we work with all different levels of people in the business. And there's so many owners who are passionate, but then they run out of time or
Mhm.
too much time goes by and things that we want to move quickly on, we're waiting on. So it makes me really happy to hear that. Although, you guys have been doing such a great job. So I would love to talk a little bit about, what your marketing strategy was when you guys first started out. Cause you mentioned 3 years and you guys aren't a super old company for how quickly you've seen success. So, what are some things that you did when you were starting out and some steps that you took to get your name out there, and then how it's evolved as you guys have gotten bigger?
Yeah, I think it's always great, Jen, to give a little bit of context, right? Because I do think that people think that we're an overnight success. And I like to call us a 15-year overnight success. So there's been a lot of time and effort put into the things that we've done. No need to go into the long drawn out story, but I was an operations manager for a large company that, grew from 4 to 14 million. So I saw that over time, how that looked. I did a lot of that marketing initially, but then we brought on a marketing company that kind of helped. I drove the vision, but they were able to do those things. So I learned a lot during that time of what I was looking for, how to deal with agencies when we're either doing digital marketing or radio or TV or all those things. And I think the biggest part of it is just having that vision of what I wanted us to look like. Of course, we started another company with an investor that we grew very quickly, 0 to 5 million in 2 years. That didn't work out. And so all of a sudden, literally 3 years ago, we were starting our own company. And, necessity is the mother of invention, right?
Yeah.
So when you got to do it, you figure it out pretty quickly. And I think those experiences over the last, 10 or 12 years pretty much dialed us in about who and what we wanted to be. And then I think we had some really great friends in the industry that reminded us who we were. And so, I know you and I are good friends with Sarah Gerardo, and Sarah's vision of just you being who you are and bringing out who you are into your story was really beneficial to us as we started. I think the biggest thing, our name came from a quote that my sister sent me. So, of course, people think we live in Charleston. It's all about the ocean and all that stuff. It was really because we were in a really bad place and we had to start this company, and it was about our faith in God. So
Mhm.
that's where Anchor came from. So there's the first part of the story, right? And then we knew that if we were going to do this, we were going to do it right. So branding has always been in my blood. And even if it wasn't Dan from the first day, we had a brand. I went on and made it on whatever it was, Fiverr or something. We had an Anchor brand and we had disruptive colors. Even at the beginning, we were teal and black and gray, which
Mhm.
was obviously not red and blue like everybody does. Just some of those things were things that I had picked up from over the years, even really before I was, as familiar with Dan as I am. And then because the other part was when we started going to people's homes, like we just knew, because we had worked at a larger company, like you have to have something that you trust before we even get to the door. And so we had to show up in t-shirts that were branded. Like
Yeah.
David never went to a door in jeans and a raggy t-shirt. Like the first thing we did was have a logo, and we had t-shirts printed.
Mhm.
And it just gave us that, a brand that people could feel comfortable with, so that when they got the bill, they were like, oh, okay, I got great service. Somebody really great showed up. They are trustworthy, and all the things that go with that equal that what they paid, they got the value for. If I could, give advice now, I would say that's what you need to do. Don't do what everybody else is doing, and do something different from the beginning, because it is hard to go back and start over. Right? It can
Yeah.
be done. And Dan Antonelli is the best at helping you start over in that way. But if you can start, from the beginning. But then it just led into, just reaching out to people in the industry. And once we decided we were going to get Kick Charge to do our brand, they do a really great thing where they ask you who you are and what you like and colors and all that kind of stuff. But Sarah had reminded me about my pearls, which I have worn since I was 14 every
Yeah.
day. And so my difficulty for Dan was, hey, I want my pearls incorporated in my air conditioning brand.
Yeah.
And you may have heard Dan tell it, but he was like, I did not know how we were going to make that happen. And so, and we honestly, we waited, we started in December. We got on Dan's schedule, but we did not get our branding until September of our first year. And it was hard, but because we had the initial brand, we were okay. But then when we got all of the choices from Dan that really embodied who we were with my pearls, with, the colors and all of that kind of stuff. It all brought the beginning of being able to tell the story.
Yeah.
And so that was the whole thing, is that, we have a story to tell and our brand can tell that story before we even get to the home.
So I love that. And I think it's interesting. I asked you about marketing and you immediately went into the experience that you gave to the customer, which is part of your marketing, right? I mean, it's a huge part, but that's not what we think of when we think of marketing. And you also mentioned that even though it did take almost a year for you guys to get rebranded, branding was one of the very first things that you saw as being important and invested in right away. And then even took a huge investment in Kick Charge, although we know that's one that pays off. But what was the next thing that you did? I mean, when did you start putting, for people who may be just starting out and they're like, okay, but where do I put my first dollar of marketing? Like, were there things that you did that didn't cost money, that besides, of course, the customer experience?
Absolutely. I am the queen of guerrilla marketing, and I could run over to my bookshelf. And if you haven't read Guerrilla Marketing by J. Conrad Levinson, like, I actually found my copy a few months ago that I've had for 20 years, but it's all about finding the things that don't cost anything, right?
Mhm.
So, one of the very first things, once we had a brand, it was the $5 brand, which
Yeah.
anybody can get. We started looking for community events. What could we go to? And that didn't mean ones that we could pay for. We honed in on an area of neighborhood that we actually had lived in and we knew people in, and they had a really great community. They have a park in the middle of the neighborhood where they have Food Truck Friday every Friday. And so I was like, hey, y'all, can we come out to Food Truck Friday? We'll pay for the music, or we'll bring, drinks for the kids,
Yeah.
whatever it was, cheap stuff, right?
Mm.
Things that I wasn't going to cost me a whole lot. You can bring a cooler of Capri Suns and put up a tent and give out some swag, some koozies at the time, right? Because that was probably about the cheapest thing that I could get. But it
Yeah.
made people come by and talk to us. And so
Mhm.
then we said who we were, and then we got a few customers that way, right? And then we got into those Facebook groups. I'm not talking about ads and all that kind of stuff, but I had a Facebook page
Yeah.
free, right?
Yeah.
Posted on that Facebook page, hey, we're out at Food Truck Friday, or hey, David did this today in the field. Like, I would post like my own, profile. I would post in
Right.
that page 3 or 4 times a day, as I still do, right?
Mhm.
I can't stand looking at a Facebook page for a company, HVAC, lots of them, and they post twice a month.
Mhm.
And then they don't know why their marketing doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
Like, that is you. So, and it's free. And your Google business profile, free. Like, I know all of the agencies do a great job of doing that for you, but when you don't have that money, you do it, and you
Right.
do it constantly for free. And then number one on all of that is provide great service and ask for reviews from the first day, because then now you're building credibility. But none of those things, honestly, like, I can't even tell you, probably the first year, I mean, well, the first 6 or 8 months, I mean, probably the most thing we spent money on was those Food Truck Fridays and our t-shirts. Like, we
Yeah.
weren't doing anything else because we didn't have the extra money. I mean, listen, I was working a job, not at Anchor. David was out, doing the work. We brought on our daughter Haley. It was any place that people would let us come to set up a booth and hand out koozies. That's what we did. And
Yeah.
anybody can do that. That is not rocket science, and it will get the phone to ring, right? I
Yeah.
mean, those kinds of things, when people start hearing the experience that you provided, they know you, they've seen you in the community, like, that's what their fear is, right? Their fear is doing business with a company that's going to come and do something bad to them and take their money, and then they can't get in touch with them.
Yeah.
Well, if you see me at Food Truck Friday, it's hard to hide,
Yeah.
And so I think, and that was consistent, right? We went out there a lot. And then when then people would say, wow, y'all are here. Y'all should go do this. We're like, great,
Yeah.
we'll go do that,
Yeah.
So I think that really at the beginning, and then we started TikTok and just were trying to be as consistent and as transparent to who we were on that, and
Mhm.
understanding that those social media platforms are different and you can't post the same thing on both places. And that's okay. But all of that, we had a 1 page website for the first 8 months because
Wow.
I did not want to spend that money for a huge website that I knew was going to get rebranded. Do you
Yeah.
know where people found us are when people Googled Anchor Heating and Air in the first 8 months, they found us on TikTok.
Really?
That's what ranked
That's
was our,
awesome.
right?
Yeah.
All free.
Yeah,
So
I know.
there's so much that you
Everything that Stephanie just said is free. And I think that when you get in your head about like, how am I gonna, we need to go pay for somebody to do our website and we need to make sure that our branding is perfect. And we need to make sure that that we have our SEO and we're doing PPC and all of these things. And I think guerrilla marketing is really the fastest and easiest way to scale quickly, even though that sounds really crazy, but for any business, because it's all about relationships that you're building and meeting people. And Facebook and TikTok allow you to do that and if you're using it in that way, which it sounds like you were, you're posting about what you're doing and you're sharing your team and it's not salesy and it's not a picture of, HVAC unit that just says like, we'll give you $1,000 off. Like that doesn't tell anybody anything. And it doesn't make you stand out from anybody else in your market or anybody else who's doing that. And it doesn't even make you stand out on the news feed. Nobody cares about that on social
It
media.
it
But
doesn't. I've even gotten I'm a little bold sometimes on TikTok because people will follow us, right? I mean, we've been at lots of events and people know us and or they'll follow me. And if I go look at their TikTok and all they do is commercials, I will message, stop. Like,
that's
stop it.
funny. Yeah.
Nobody wants to see your commercial on either platform. You
Yeah.
may get away with it a little bit more on Facebook. Absolutely not on TikTok. Like, do
Yeah.
not tell me $49 tune-up special on TikTok. I am not
Yeah.
interested, and neither is your customer. So stop
Right.
doing it, right? But so that's where you got to educate yourself about what you're putting where, right?
Yeah.
So I think that is a big thing. I would go back, Jen, because I think some of the things that make those things easier or is knowing who you are when you get started. And so when you don't know who you are, then you're more likely to be throwing your money at things that look like the quick fix. And
Yeah.
so, two things I want to remember to tell you. One is I think that guerrilla marketing is absolutely the way, but here's why I think that a lot of people haven't done it until recently is because a lot of people have gotten in this industry in the last 5 years, and anybody with a pulse could run a company through COVID because everybody needed us. We
Right.
didn't need marketing. You could jump right in. People were going to buy from you. They had to have it. They didn't have anywhere else to spend their money. And then now that has dried up because now we're back to really running companies the way that they were supposed to be run. I think that it's great, but interesting that all of a sudden everybody's back into community events, right? And my thing is, I was always at the community events. So
Yeah.
don't be looking new at me, right? I want everybody to get into it, but I think it's funny that it seems revolutionary because you didn't need it before and now you need it, right? Or you did it prior to COVID and then you forgot about it. And so then now we have to get back to our roots, right?
Right.
So that's one thing why I think, people might not have, they don't know that term as well as maybe they used to.
Yeah.
And then the other
So,
part I think is just the story, right? Because so
yeah.
many people get out of the truck as a technician and then the next day they're a business owner and they don't really know or feel like they have a story, right? And so my thing is create your story, right? Not make it up, but why are you doing this? And that is way more interesting to people than just you provide cheap heating and air, right? I don't need cheap heating and air. I want to deal with Joe and Cindy who own their business and they've lived in this community or they moved here from somewhere else because they wanted a great way of life for their kids and whatever. I don't know what it is, right?
Yeah.
But I think that makes it so much easier to do the Facebook, to do the TikTok, to do all those things. If you're just
Yeah.
doing it because you want to collect a check, you're going to struggle in your marketing, and you're always going to be chasing what you think the silver bullet is.
Right. And I definitely want to get into the silver bullet. But what I want to ask you first, because you told me this the last time that we talked, and I have told other people this, especially when, like, they're just starting off and they're talking to me. And I never like to take on companies who aren't doing other forms of marketing and try to do social media as their first one where they're paying for it. Like, that's just a big investment that probably isn't the right way to invest your marketing dollars at the beginning, though social media is a great place to be active. But at that point, you might need to just do it on your own. But one thing that you told me that I think was so great is I asked you how to get involved in the community, and you told me to own your elementary schools. So will you talk a little bit about that part?
Absolutely. I mean, my kids went to school in this community, and I have teacher friends or friends that, that taught my kids, go there first, right? What can you do for those schools? They all need something. That first year, they had the birthday club. And so I paid $120 for the school year. And every month they bought a cake to celebrate the birthdays of the teachers in that month. And I put up a little sign that said, provided by Anchor Heating and Air. I
Yeah.
mean, for $120, I mean, do I know that we got people a change out of it? I don't know. I know they're my service contract customers, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, they're customers that way. Call the PTO and see what they need. The first day of school, they always want breakfast for the teachers. I bought 60 Chick-fil-A biscuits and dropped them off and put a sign, and they let me talk for 2 minutes. Hi, I'm Stephanie Postell. My kids went to school here. We'd love to serve you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I things like that where, I mean, yes, there's an investment, but those people are going to follow you no matter where you go.
And they
And
know so many people. They know everyone in the community.
they know everybody, and you do too. That's the thing, right? And if you don't, then you are just trying to market to them, right? I mean, you should know the people. Your wife or you have been on a PTO, or you're the owner and you were the PTO president. That was me, right?
Mm.
So I've made those relationships over years, and that's the biggest thing. Any sports, for $100, you can sponsor the soccer team. I'm all about that, right? I mean, and I think here's where we miss a little bit. We sponsor the soccer team, and we just write the check.
Yeah.
We don't do that. Like, that is one of our rules. We do not sponsor or give money to something that we can't go to, right?
Mhm.
So if it's an event, it's the soccer team. I'm not saying I went to every game, but we certainly went out there for one of their games. We took snacks, we took pom-poms, we took swag. We gave swag out to the parents. We had bells to ring. We provided their snacks. Literally our mantra around here is go super anchors. And that came from, we went to the soccer game. We have a boys team and a girls team, of course, because we have both. And the boys were sitting on the bench going, go super anchors, go super anchors. So David and I came back to the meeting the next morning, and we're like, okay, here's our new cheer. And it
That's
was
so
because of the
cute.
soccer team, right? So I think that's the part of, don't just write the check, go be there. And then, like, I know from that soccer team, those people are our service contract customers. We've changed out a system for one of those coaches. And like that, why not? They knew we were giving back to the community. And so they were happy to do business with us. And it was literally $100 for the season to take care of that team.
Yeah, these are some very, again, like, you think about marketing as being like your PPC or your LSA, and you haven't talked about that at all. And I know that you love the Google company that you work with because you talk about it on social media all the time. So I know that's a part of your marketing strategy. But everything that you've mentioned so far are things that people at really any level of business could do, whether you're just starting off or you're looking to grow or you're even $100 million business. There's no reason why you couldn't be involved in the community like this.
Absolutely. And it's in our heart too, right? I mean, we are so thankful for how the community has taken us in and supported us. And so it's also, yes, am I writing a check for it? Absolutely. Am I getting something out of it? Absolutely. But do they need sponsors? They absolutely do, right? So then I'm giving back to the community in that way, right? I'm not just taking, I'm giving as well. So that's a big part. I would say, too, it's funny, I just met this morning with our radio group that we do a lot of advertising with. Our strategy is absolutely, I think, different than a lot of people's, but it is because of these foundational things that I'm telling you about. That's what we did to lay this foundation before we did everything else.
Mhm.
I always get a gasp when I say, I do not spend a penny on PPC. I just don't. It's not my place. I don't think that I can outspend the private equity companies in my area. And I don't choose to just play the lottery like that. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that, we won't in the future in some way, but 3 years in, doubling our company year over year, I haven't needed it. And so I just choose to do other things and show up at those events. And that's been super beneficial to us. The other parts of our strategy, obviously, we work with an amazing digital marketing company. Eric has done an amazing job for us on our SEO. Our website is beautiful. I had a real vision for that because of where I had worked. I worked for Contractor Commerce while we were starting Anchor, and I got to see 70 or 80 websites. I worked with contractors. So all day I looked at their websites and I picked out what I loved about each one of them. And when I found Eric, and we chatted, like I was like, this is what I want my website to be able to do. And that's what it does, right? It has all the essentials, but the experience that the customer has is very simple, right?
Yeah.
Everything is what to do. And then that he backs all that up with all the other gobbledygook that, Google likes to have, so that
Yeah.
when we drive people to our website, they can complete the sale, right? So that's been certainly foundational, and it mirrors our brand and all of that kind of stuff. So that's been super important. And then again, the other parts are other community events. We have sponsored a concert series for the last 3 years. We go to the pre-party. We like country music.
I think that is so cool. I love that. I saw you post about that one time, and that was the first time where I'm like, I need to talk to Stephanie more about what she's doing in marketing because I just think that's such a great opportunity. Why would you not want to be the
Well,
sponsor
why?
of
We
radio?
love country music and we want to go to
Yeah.
all the concerts. And so I'm like, how do we get concert tickets and
Thinking
market,
outside the
right?
box. I
That's
mean,
it.
that's ideal right there.
100% it is. And so again, it is boots on the ground. I mean, we still go to those pre-parties. We set up our booth. Now we have our inflatable truck. We have our tent and all that stuff. And we hand out stuff and we drink
Yeah.
sometimes, and I can't tell you how many sales we've gotten from that though, right?
Yeah.
And literally we spend about $3,000 a month, but we might have 4 events that we get to go to in that month. And my radio strategy is much larger, and we can talk about that. But like again, don't write the check and just expect that something's going to happen. That's been the biggest thing on my radio strategy, is that I don't just have commercials running. We certainly have that. We have a DJ that's been in Charleston for 40 years. He endorses us. But let me tell you what I did with that. I didn't just say, hey, here's the money, endorse us. I said, here's a free service contract. My guy will be over on Thursday. I want you to experience the service that we provide so that when
Mhm.
you write these commercials, you can say, I'm a customer and this is how I was treated, right?
Yeah.
So you're not just getting the money, you're getting the whole experience. And so I know when he speaks, it's authentic, that he
Yeah.
is our customer and that he loves our service. And then the radio group is really awesome about attaching themselves to these community events. And so then it's, Wine Under the Oak, sponsored by Anchor Heating and Air, for a month before that event happens. Then the event happens, and guess who's at the event? Anchor Heating and Air, right?
Yeah.
So it's
How
not,
did
again,
you get into that? Like, I I feel like those are some really ideal, I know exactly who you're talking about. I can think about on our radio, like the companies that they're like, oh, like LASIK, like we've been doing LASIK or whatever. Like, how did you get that relationship if somebody was looking to do something like that?
I mean, I picked a local radio group. So
Yeah.
that's the difference, right? And no shade on anybody else, but iHeart, those other groups, they're national groups. And so
Yeah.
they're to sell advertising, right? I mean, that's their deal. And I want you to sell advertising. But the events that are being sponsored, right? I mean, that's where the value comes for me. So what events do you have? And are the people that are on the radio, are they local? Right?
Mhm.
Because if you're on Bobby Bones in the morning, right, which I love, I used to listen to him before I, got local. All you're going to hear on that is my commercial, right?
Yeah.
You're never going to hear the people that endorse me who are local, who are my customers. And you know what happens? So when something comes up that TJ is talking about, if it applies to Anchor, he'll talk about Anchor.
Yeah.
Right. And so then it's even that more authentic that we're having a conversation, or he's talking about something and, David and I are riding to work and I'll text him like, hey, they were talking a couple of weeks ago about Tupperware was filing bankruptcy. And so I texted them and I was like, I started out as a Tupperware lady in the
That's so
90s.
funny.
And
Yeah.
so then they made a comment about me and like, no wonder Anchor's doing what they're doing because Stephanie was a Tupperware lady,
That's so
But
funny.
just that connection to the community. And I think that's what you have to be looking for if you're new and smaller and looking for the biggest bang for your buck, right? The strategy for a larger company may not be what we're doing, but what has worked for us is to really grow that relationship. And like I said, they were here this morning and they're like, what can we do next year to help you get to the next level? If this is your budget, we're going to give you 30% more on top of what your budget is because we want to be part of your story. We want to see you grow. And so that's where the value begins to come in, right? Because they're always now looking for opportunities for Anchor to be front and center.
Yeah.
Again, then, I have a local women's conference that I started
Mhm.
last year. And they're like, we'll take on the women's conference. Like no
Ooh, I love
charge.
that.
We'll put all that out there for you next year. Give us one sponsorship and then we'll talk about it for the first 3 months of the year. Right. Like, and that's not even a me thing. That's my give back or our give back to the community so that
Yeah.
we can get other business women to have this opportunity to be around other people. And so as an extension, is Anchor getting something out of that? Absolutely. But now our
Right.
vision of being able to give back to the community is even larger than it would have been. So
I mean, that is 100% a part of your marketing, but it's also fun and you can tell that
yeah,
it's giving back and it's elevating women in your community and it's elevating other businesses. So it's all around a win, but it's also marketing. And
yes,
that's what I love about marketing is that marketing can be really fun.
it's so fun.
It's connecting with people and it's empowering other people to win also. And
Let
I
me tell you what it does for culture. Here's the other thing, right?
yeah,
It's a fun place to work, right?
yeah,
It's a fun place to work when I have 8 free tickets to the Wing Fest. Right.
right.
We're sponsoring the Wing Fest. And so, now I have stuff that I can treat my employees to that now they're out in the community enjoying events. They can wear their Anchor stuff if they want to. And people are like, oh, Anchor, we love y'all. Right.
Yeah,
So culture wise, it really now we're talking about one vision, right? We're super focused in on taking care of our people and the marketing that we do to them, right? Because when our people are happy, then our customers are going to be happy as an extension of that.
yeah.
And so I think, we sometimes we forget about how important it is to market internally. And so when you have a strategy like what we've put together, it really is hitting both. And so
Mhm.
that's been a huge win for us as well.
That's awesome. So I know we've been talking for a while here, and I love this conversation. Okay, there's two things that I want to make sure that we talk about before we end here. And one of them is the ROI. So a lot of everything that you look at your business, you're looking at KPIs and how it's impacting the business. And marketing, of course, course, is a huge part of that because it's an investment of time and of energy. But as we know, there's a lot of things that don't have a direct ROI. So how are you measuring the impact that, I mean, and you talked a little bit about it, but the impact that these community events have, like one-to-one or just overall impact that social media has? What are you looking at for that?
So mostly feel, which I hate to hear agency, but I just know, right? I mean, and still, I'm very active, obviously, in our business. And so a lot of that is because I'm meeting, Jen at the brewery before the concert. When Jen calls me, I'm like, well, Jen, changed her system out. So was that worth it to go out there for an hour and spend that money? Absolutely. Right. So I think that's the hard part because it is difficult to get that true ROI. Like if you're looking about, money and how much we spend, and do I really track that as well? I don't. I'm sorry. I just don't. But am I good about, we use Service Titan, we use Marketing Pro. We absolutely will do our best to put certain phone numbers out there, or at least put the campaign out there. So if somebody calls in, my ladies are really great about asking, where did you hear about us? And so because we're everywhere, just like any marketing, it's difficult to nail it down other than the last thing that they saw
Right.
it at. But I think you have to have that, at least that effort to ask where people are hearing about you, because I don't care if it's, we did one event and one person called in. That's a
Yeah.
win to me,
Yeah.
right? Because then they're using us. We get the opportunity to get out there, we get the opportunity to make money, and we get the opportunity to get them to tell 5 other people that we did a really great job. So community events are difficult on the ROI side, I would say, but you also have to be, like I said, responsible for what you're doing, right? So we want to hold our digital marketing agencies. They're not necessarily, they're lead generators to the point that the phone rings, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if we're not good at answering the phone and booking the call, it's not really their fault. So
Mm-hmm.
we have to be good at doing the back end stuff too on the operational side, to make sure that we're doing our thing, because you can get to saying, well, these events aren't really paying off. Well, if we're not converting on them, then no, they're not, but that's our fault, right?
Right.
So I would say that's probably the more difficult thing. But I just go on, somebody called and said they heard us on the radio.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Radio work,
Yeah.
That's how I kind of see that side of it. Of course, we do LSA, we're Google guaranteed. I still feel like that stuff is a shot in the dark. Those are tire kickers. Those are not necessarily people that love me, because
Right.
we've worked so hard on our branding. I want the people who say, I saw you in the neighborhood, my friend recommended you, that's why I called you. And is there, like, I didn't spend any money on that. So
Yeah.
what
I'm
KPI can I give you? $1 million. Like, that's what it's worth,
It's so funny. I'm totally the same way. Like, I'm not gonna convince somebody to wanna work with me. I want them to be like, "You are the best, and I wanna work with you because of
Right.
you." And that's like it.
It's
That's the best.
hard. But I'll
Yeah.
tell you too, like, I mean, I think the other part of it is knowing what channel is for what thing, right?
Mhm.
Because, like, I would say that TikTok for us is not a customer creating vehicle, right? What I get from TikTok is that I've hired 3 amazing technicians from
Yeah.
TikTok because they were following us on TikTok, watching what we were doing, and basically walked in here and said, I'm ready to start.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I didn't have to go recruit them. Well, how much money did I save on that? And
For
they
sure.
they are amazing additions to this company. I've told the story a ton of times, but our technician, Brandon, so funny. He actually he's in some of the groups, and he had gotten his resume put in one of the Facebook groups. And I know he knew that everybody was going to tag me for
Yeah.
Charleston, South Carolina. And they did. And so I called him and I had him come in for an interview, and we're talking and all that stuff. And of course, I always say, well, listen, we do a lot of social media, you're going to, have to be on TikTok and all that. And he said, you'd know me better as Charleston HVAC on TikTok. And I
Oh, that's funny.
He had been on our live. He had been following us for months. He was interacting and asking us questions during our live. And so when
Yeah.
he came in for the interview, he said, my company that I work at, they get tired of me saying, at Anchor, they do it like this. And the only
That's
thing
so
that he
funny.
knew was the stuff that we did on TikTok. And I said, well, what else can I answer for you? And he said, when do I start? And he's an amazing technician, right? So that's my ROI for TikTok. I could spend $1 million on there and doing ads thinking I was going to get a customer, but I've gotten a technician that has generated millions of dollars basically
Right.
because of who he is. So how do you measure that?
Yeah.
So
That's so good.
yeah.
Okay. So what is the next step for someone who's listened to this episode? What should they do next?
Well, I mean, like I said, I think I would go back it depends on where you are. I would go back and check and see if you've done all the free things and if you are optimizing those free things. I would go back and make your story. Do you have a story? Do you have things that relate to your story? We have our pearls, we have our pearl promise, our captain's club, like everything revolves around that theme. But also so do our core values and, our pearl promise and all of those things that come out of that. Because I think it's like I said at the beginning, it's difficult to market when you don't know who you are. And so you really have to know that story. And, I always feel like I'm a super advocate of the 0 to 5 million crew. And I consult with tons of people because of that. They're like, what are you doing? How are you able to do that so quickly? Well, like I said, a whole lot of hard work and a lot of boots on the ground, but not something that you can't do too. You have to leverage what is in your community and how you can give back to your community because they are going to give back to you. And I know like the people, I've had several companies that I've been, working with over the last 2 or 3 years, and they're doing amazing. McCawsome comes to mind. Man, like if you like what they're doing in the community now and their tent and their branding and how they look, right? And that was just a matter of, Bianca and Maynard said, what are you doing? And I said, here's what I'm doing. And they went and did it. And that's what a lot of people, unfortunately, Jen, from this won't do. They won't go do anything.
Yeah.
And so the people that have the silver bullet is you. It is what you are willing to do for your company. It is what you are willing to go and change and implement immediately. And when you do that, like, I mean, how can they stop you? Like nobody out there is Anchor. They can't be. They're not going to outwork us. They're not going to have as good a people. They're not going to look as good as we do. And that's not prideful. That's just because that's who we want to be. That's who we want to be for our community and for our own team. So
I love that. Okay, so this has been amazing. I feel like you definitely gave anybody listening to this something that you can take and really run with. Like Stephanie said, that 0 to 5 million. And this is not easy, but it's simple. This is very simple of what the next steps are. So for anybody that wants to go see what you're doing on TikTok or on social media or just be a part of your community, how can they find you online?
Yes. So you should go follow us on TikTok for sure. Anchor Heating and Air LLC. I think we're that on TikTok and Facebook, and then Instagram. For some reason, we had to be Anchor Heating and Air SC. So that's where you'll find us and see our posts and all of that. But anytime, you're welcome to reach out to me. I love to hear from companies, big and small, and what you're doing. And if there's any way that I can help, I am. My email is spostell@anchorheatingandair.com. Of course, I'm on Facebook and I have a Calendly, and that's the only way that I'll do it. You can reach out to me all day long. You can either get on my calendar or don't. That's the only way that we'll meet. But I'm happy to give you my time because I think anybody that reaches out that makes that effort, it's my job to help them do what they need to do. But I always tell them, just like I said at Pantheon when I spoke, I think in my mind I make $1,000 an hour. So don't waste my time by meeting with you and you not doing what I tell you to do. So
Make it a couple million, make it worth millions.
that's right. That's right. So, and I know that there are people out there. I'm very blessed to know that people have done those things and their lives are going to be changed, right? And they're able to change the lives of the people that work with them just for some really easy things that you can do just by putting in the effort and boots on the ground.
That's awesome. Stephanie, thank you so much for sharing. This was really, really great.
Thanks so much for having me. And I'm so excited for you and in all your success. And anybody who can get with Jen and do her thing, definitely get on that train.
Thank you. All right. Bye bye.